Thanks for tuning in to the Mission Matters podcast, where we feature successful, mission-driven leaders committed to creating a positive change in the world. Our mission with this channel is to inspire other leaders by providing industry insights, new ideas, and inspiring stories from the pros.
Well, hello, welcome again. I'm Paul Feitz, host of the show where I talk with leaders heading up mission-focused and faith-based organizations, leading from the heart, inspiring others, and making a difference in our communities. This episode is sponsored by Gregory Media, affectionately known as PGM, who also happens to be a B Corporation. B stands for, what does it stand for? Benefit Corporation. To learn more about what a benefit corporation is or what Paul Gregory Media does, visit paulgregorymedia.com. Speaking of faith-based organizations, I have with us Sister Anthony Veilleux. Hope I pronounced that right. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Paul.
That's the end of my announcer voice. I'm going to relax. Well, Sister Anthony, she is the director of mission integration at the St. Patrick's Residence. So she's been a member of the Carmelite Sisters. I should just talk in the, you've been a member of the Carmelite Sisters, and you know that, for the Aged and Infirmed, serving St. Patrick's Residence in Naperville, Illinois. You happen to be a nurse, which I found interesting, and a member of this congregation for 50 years. We're going to dive into that. And for those of you that don't know, St. Patrick's Residence is a nonprofit organization. So we're going to dive into Sister Anthony's journey, what led her to St. Patrick's Residence, challenges that she's overcome. What is St. Patrick's Residence anyway? For those of you that live in Naperville or the surrounding communities, you already know because they're very entrenched in the community and they're the gem of the community. But for those outside in the rest of the nation, you're going to be surprised at how wonderful this organization is. So welcome to the show, Sister Anthony. It's a pleasure having you.
Well, thank you, Paul. And I'm just going to make one correction in what you said.
Yeah.
You noted that I'm a member of the congregation of Carmelite Sisters for the Aged and Infirmed. It's actually Aged and Infirm. Although I do have a little something I always say, that I'm a Carmelite sister for the paged and informed. So that's my little sense of humor, just being interjected.
And not to say that they're not uninformed either, right? So
that's correct. Absolutely.
So that's important to note, though, for an official title, though, Director of Mission Integration and a member of the Carmelite Sisters for the Aged, I guess is another way of putting that, and Infirmed. Okay.
Infirm.
So we'll get to what that is when we talk about St. Patrick's Residence. But what I'd love to know, obviously you're celebrating 50 years, so congratulations.
Thank you.
Milestone. I'd love to know what you were doing right before that. What started this journey in serving God, and also what led you to, at some point in the future, to St. Patrick's Residence. Let's hear your story.
Okay. Well, it starts when I was about 6 years old. I'm the second oldest of 10, born and raised in New Hampshire, as they say out there in New Hampshire. And it was the end of my first grade, and Sister showed us the movie, The Song of Bernadette, with Our Lady of Lourdes. And that really just struck me immensely, to the point where I knew at that day, my life changed. I couldn't get the thought of something being greater than myself out there. And over the next years, I learned more about my faith and God, and just by the example of my parents, my grandparents, and kind of kept the thought of entering religious life to myself for a while, especially when I was in high school, because that was in the late 60s, early 70s. And you didn't talk about going to the convent at that age. You would have been ostracized. I would have been. So I kept it myself, lived a normal life, went to my proms, was class president, had a great time growing up. But then it was time for me to do something as I graduated from high school. And when my mom said, you haven't been talking much about what your plans are, and I said, well, I'm going to enter the convent. Much to my surprise, she said, no, you're not. And I said, why? She said, because what if it doesn't work out for you? What are you going to do? So I was a nurse's aide at a local nursing home. I liked working with the elderly. So I thought, well, maybe I'll go into nursing. back then. It was a 3-year program. I entered nursing in 1972, graduated in 75, and then entered the congregation in fall of 1975. There were 10 of us women who entered, and our foundress, Mother Angeline Teresa, who is now venerable, was still alive at that time, and she invited us to just talk about our experience as novices and postulants and see how our thoughts were, what our thoughts were about going out to serve the aged and infirm, or as she always referred to them as her old people. And she dedicated the group that I entered with to Our Lady of Lourdes. And if you go back to what I said at the beginning, the movie we saw was about Our Lady of Lourdes, and that was the day I knew I had my call to religious life. So it was kind of like the stamp of approval for me. And although there have been times, I've struggled, I always remember that I truly feel this is where I am supposed to be.
So I think I missed the part where, so you had a calling in first grade. You didn't really do much about it because you kept it to yourself. But then you joined the convent. Was the convent the Carmelite Sisters?
Yes, it was. Okay. We grew up. Our house was located next to one of the homes where the sisters served. And I got to know them when I was in nursing school. And working there, I saw the joy. I saw what they did and how the residents were just the focus of their attention. And I thought, I can do this. And so I just knew that was the congregation that I wanted to enter. And there, the mother house is located in Germantown, New York. So it's a beautiful location right on the Hudson River, at the foot of the Catskill Mountains. It's very pastoral and just absolutely beautiful.
I'm familiar with the Catskills. So were you in, so you went to New York, I guess, but before that, yes, you were living where?
In New Hampshire, in Manchester, New Hampshire.
Okay, so you went from New Hampshire to New York.
Yes.
And then what point did you trek to Illinois?
So we as religious take 3 vows: poverty, chastity, and obedience. And the obedience is one that you have great faith that what you're being asked to do is what you should be doing at that time. God speaks to us through those who, are I don't want to say superiors, but those who have the opportunity to direct us, I guess I should say. So I was asked to come to Iowa back in 1990. Previous to that, I served the elderly in Utica, New York, and Framingham, Massachusetts. And then in 1990, I came to Iowa for a year and then was asked to come here to St. Pat's as an assistant administrator. Within a year, I was then appointed as the administrator. I served here for 10 years. And then in 2002, I was elected to the leadership team of our congregation. So I served 2 terms back in Germantown. In 2015, I was asked to come back here. So it was like coming home.
Oh, wow. And I guess my follow-up question to that is, well, you've been with the Carmelite Sisters for 50 years. How long have you been with St. Pat's since you came back?
So 10 years this month.
10 years, okay.
This month, yeah.
And
my role here is I now serve as the Director of Mission Integration, which enables me to encourage our staff, our volunteers, to embrace the mission of the Carmelite Sisters for the Aged and Infirm.
And what is that mission?
We serve the elderly. We hold the hands of those who are in the autumn of their life. And it's such a privilege. When we were first founded, we have always been known for end-of-life care. So we are on the journey with our residents and their families and help them to transition. And to be with somebody when they pass is just an extremely rewarding experience. And I've been with many. many souls that have passed, and I will tell you, there are no two that are the same. For each person, it is such a different journey, and it's just beautiful. It really is.
Wow.
We also have 4 core values here, and they are hospitality, shared commitment, a respect for life in all its stages, and compassion. And so they're the 4 legs to the table from which we serve our residents, and helping our staff to understand that if they work within those core values, it's just top notch.
Sure. So I read in the news, which already I'm setting myself up for failure, but I read in the news that there's such this epidemic of shortage of workers in senior care, nursing homes, end of life care, hospice, things like that. How has that affected St. Patrick's residents, or has it?
So yes, we've struggled, and especially during COVID. We since then have had the opportunity through a state-funded program to increase our wages. And the CNAs especially, who, having been a CNA myself, that work is difficult. And being present to each individual resident in a unique way is difficult, as much as it is enjoyable and rewarding. So because of that, because of our environment, the internal environment of the home, the culture, I guess is what I should say, of the home, it has attracted those who have caring within them. I love to interview new staff and just ask them, why are you coming to St. Pat's? Why aren't you going across the street or down the road? And many times the response I get is, because I know that you're different here, and I can feel it when I walk into the home. And we also have a slogan, the difference is love. Our chapel it's just off the lobby. Many people are intrigued by that. You know, it's a wonderful, quiet space to go to. We encourage staff to do that because they need to break away sometimes from the difficulties of their job and just kind of recenter and go back out, refuel. And our culture is so different here. You know, we don't just care for our residents, we care for our staff, our family members. We have a group of over 100 volunteers, and they come. Certain volunteers are here 7 days a week. There's always a volunteer in the house, I will say that. Most of those individuals are people who had a loved one here. And when that loved one passed, they couldn't break away. So they know us from the inside out, and they want to be part of us. And it's just amazing, you know, the different things they do. We have one woman who said she loves coming here because what she does, her brother and her mother had been here. She labels clothing. You know, that's a big thing. You don't want someone to come into the home and realize that the blouse you just bought for your mother is being worn by the lady sitting at her table, right? You want clothes to be labeled and properly put away in someone's closet or their drawers. And she loves to label. Someone else is an extraordinary minister. They distribute communion to our residents on a daily basis. You have some who just like to come in and chat with the residents, but they all find a niche here, and they all become part of our service model. And we're all born to be servants to one another, you know, and servant leadership is so very important. Our administrator, Kate Marrero, talks about that a lot, you know, servant leadership. You know, our faith tells us and shows us in the life of Jesus how to be a servant. And to be a servant to someone else is beautiful. And to let yourself be served also it's difficult, but to allow someone to serve you in a way that is comforting, you know, helping hand.
Sure. Well, I think no matter what your faith is, there's nothing more fulfilling than serving others. I think most people at some point come to that realization. How much of the faith, so this is a Christian faith, how much of that Christian faith is permeated throughout the organization's operations staff, volunteers, or do you welcome all faiths, or how's that work?
So yes, all faiths are welcome. And it has, I mean, it doesn't matter what someone's faith is. We do not discriminate at all. We're primarily, we are a Christian facility, a Catholic facility, and we serve a lot of Catholics because we have our chapel. And so all they have to do is come down the hall and go to the chapel. And we have Mass on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, and Sundays. And there are anywhere from 40 to 50, 60 residents at Mass on a daily basis. Their families will come in, especially on Sundays, and attend Mass with them. So we also, part of our congregation of, or our community of people here within the home, we serve about 18 religious women and about 10 priests. So we have the support of their prayers. And there are several priests who can continue their work by hearing confessions, serving Mass, doing Bible studies, rosary. So it's all, they just become, they can continue, what they've done all their lives.
Yeah. So you're there now. You're back there now for 10 years. Let's talk about the organization itself, St. Patrick's Residence. Okay, so they're in the heart of Naperville. Tell us a little bit about the organization, what they do. Let's list some of their services.
So St. Pat's, I'll quickly go back and say we started in Joliet. We were at the old Louis Joliet Hotel in 1964. Bishop Blanchette invited Mother Angeline into the diocese. And we were there for 25 years, and then in the 80s realized that an old hotel is not going to be able to serve us much longer as a nursing home. So Harold and Margaret Mosier had donated the property that we are on to the diocese, and Bishop Imish offered this property to us. The famous Ray Jones, everybody knows Ray Jones in town, and he was our connection to Naperville, along with Father Jim Lennon. Anyone who may remember Jim Lennon. They introduced us to Carmen DeGiovane, and before we knew it, we were establishing friendships here in Naperville. So we moved in 1989. Once our facility was constructed, we moved about 120 residents here to this home, and then admitted residents from the outside. St. Pat's, originally, all we did was nursing care, long-term care. But then Mother Angeline always told us to meet the needs of the times. And so in 2015, we established one unit as a Medicare unit. So people can come from any of the various hospitals in our area to receive short-term rehab. It's not uncommon for somebody who's completed their rehab for families to say, they seem to be fitting in nicely. We'd like them to stay at St. Pat's long term. So that's how we increase our census. And we will admit individuals directly from the outside. So our source of payment is through Medicare, private pay, and Medicaid. And we serve 177 residents today.
Wow. Okay. It's been a while since I visited, but the last time I was there, I thought it was more than that. Or maybe it just seemed bigger because you just keep going back and then back, and then there's these hallways.
So it was 120, 210 beds. But when we created our Medicare unit, we made all of those rooms private. Okay. So we dropped the number of beds there. And then with the support of our local Naperville community, which is, I've never been in a home that has been so well supported as we are here at St. Pat's. It's extremely humbling. what the Naperville community does for St. Patrick's residents. And through donations over the years, through our own fundraising efforts, back in 2023, we were able to renovate the nursing units of the home. COVID had taught us that we were too closed in. So we took walls down outside the dining room, the sitting rooms, the nurses' station, and it just changed the whole feel of the home. And as we set up our units after renovations, we then began to provide some suites. So we took about 14 double rooms and we spread them throughout the home and made them suites. So somebody who can afford to be in a much larger room, and they have their bed and sleeping area and then a sitting area, at the other end of the room. So that also decreased the number of beds.
Sure. So long-term care nursing, and you have the Medicare wing or section.
Right.
You've converted several rooms into suites. Rehabilitation, right? I guess would be one, right?
Yes.
I had a dear friend who went through rehabilitation there after a heart attack and did very well and received great care.
That's good.
Nothing but great things to say about you. So are those the three main services then that St. Patrick offers?
Yes. We also have one unit which we have coined as our advanced care unit, and it's for those who have maybe issues with cognition. And there's increased staff on that unit to anticipate their needs. And the activity program is geared towards that level, and to try to keep residents engaged, and add quality to their life. One thing, when someone comes to a nursing home, I'd like to say, especially St. Pat's, they don't come to die. They come so that we are able to add quality to their life, because they may have been living alone and not had much stimulation. They come here, they're surrounded by people, and sometimes they make such wonderful friendships, and it adds to the quality of their life. Our life enrichment program, we have a travel log on a monthly basis. The residents love, they never miss it. They come down, they've traveled to Poland and Russia, England, Ireland, all over the place. Jill conducts those actually and does a fabulous job. Anything to celebrate, we will celebrate.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great home, a great environment.
You know what I thought you were going to say? I thought you were going to say they don't come here to die; they come here to live.
Well, and they do. They do.
Yeah.
They do.
It's such a succinct way of putting it, though. But it's a change in the state of mind because of the external stimulus and the friendships that they're making, activities that they're being presented with that they may have not had before.
We have one volunteer who, her mother was here for 18 years, and now her sister-in-law is here. And she will talk about how, her mother still helped her find friends, because coming here, she's served with many women on our guild, St. Patrick's Guild, which is the fundraising aspect of the volunteer group. And they've raised millions of dollars for us over the years to help us, because as nonprofit, that bottom line is sometimes difficult to meet. And so we really can't do anything extra for our residents unless it's done through fundraising opportunities.
Sure. Well, you certainly have got the right community backing you.
Yes. And it's important that we give back to that community too. And so we do so, in any way that we find that we are able to do. We've contributed to loaves and fishes. We've done little fundraisers here in the home. We try to do one once a month. The Humane Society. We've also have some of our members, especially Kate, the administrator, who works on the Naperville Senior Task Force and Dementia Friendly Committee. We also helped to recognize two individuals as the recipients of the Senior of the Year Award back in 2023. We participate in the Irish Parade. we also belong to JC's, and some of the sisters will sit at the tent on the last fling and check IDs. Very important. Mm-hmm. That always draws a crowd. It's important to give back.
Yeah. Well, you don't get to where you are. I'm going to quote from a movie. I don't even remember which movie it is, but I like the quote. You don't get to where you are without sidestepping a few landmines. Yeah. And so there's been some challenges, I'm sure. Anyone in particular that stands out that either you still struggle with or have overcome?
I think that the most recent one was the COVID. We all experienced it, but it was so to not be able to allow people in the nursing home to come and visit their loved ones, to be with them when they were passing. That was just so totally heart-wrenching. And we figured out how to do it, though. We did meet them at the front door. We wrapped them in every piece of PPE we could find, and led them down to their loved one's room so that they could be with them when they passed. That was just so important, There was staff, wonderful staff that we lost because they chose at that time not to be vaccinated. And that was just difficult. As a result of losing so many staff, we had to take on agency staff in order to help for us to get through those long, hard days and make sure the residents were being cared for. But through this program that we have embarked on with the state to increase wages, we now have less than 6% agency in the home. And it may be at a time like right now when there's so much illness going around out there, these winter months. And so we need additional staff to help for them to take the place of those who are ill, That's always difficult, and especially to help agency staff understand what we're about. They're just temporary, and some it's just a job. And when you're caring for the elderly, it's not just a job.
True. No truer words have been spoken for that. I guess it's a blessing to have the agency staff then not to have that resource available.
Absolutely. And some actually wanted to come and work with us, when they continued to come and saw what we did and felt that this was a different culture. They asked when we told them we were going to be increasing wages, and they said, well, can I interview for a position there? And we let them do that. So
that's a great tool that you have, but it's also not just about the wages, right? People want to be fulfilled in their job. And
Absolutely.
If they see that in your culture, that there could be some more fulfillment.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have, between that, the wages and the culture, I think that's what people are attracted to.
Yeah. We have two programs here, and you kind of just made me think of one of them, and it's called Recognize Your Colleague. Staff every month. You have one staff member that may be recognized for something special they've done, or maybe just who they are, what they do for the residents. And we just recognized a CNA a couple of weeks ago for January. And we had a resident that was passing, and her daughter lived a distance. And so this individual knew that the daughter might not get there in time. And we always try to have a sister come over, even if it's in the middle of the night, because our convent is attached and there are 4 of us. So one of us will come over during the night. But this particular sister went to the room, and there sat the CNA next to the bedside of that resident, holding her hand, praying the rosary, which is something years ago you would have seen, but you don't see it now. And that just was so touching for the family to come in and just know that they weren't there, but somebody was. And then several months later, she was caring for a resident who had passed, and she was training a new CNA. And she said, I want you to come with me now because I want to show you how we take care of a resident after they have passed. It's a different kind of care. And, for somebody to do that, at a young age, and but that fulfilled her mission. We have another staff member who around the holidays just felt she wanted to donate her paycheck back as a CNA. And she did that because she wanted to do that. And that touched me tremendously, that she took her biweekly check and handed it right back over to us, something you don't see. So there's something here where they really do feel a part of it and part of the culture. And it's so rewarding for them. And then once a year, we have the Mission Made Visible Award, where we recognize 4 individuals who've bought into one of the core values that's being highlighted that year. And when we have our annual gala at Crest Creek, they come and attend the gala, gives them an opportunity to get all dressed up and be recognized in front of 240 individuals that they have done a great job. And it's wonderful.
Very nice. Very nice. Those galas are quite the formal event.
That's right.
So, I've known St. Patrick's residents now for probably, since 2008, I think, when I volunteered there, part of the chamber leads group.
Yes.
But I've yet still learned so much more that I didn't know. So thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for sharing the good things that St. Patrick's is doing, plus the integration into the community, the integration of your core values into your staff and volunteers. That's important. It is certain to me that culture and those core values, and that's something, and faith is a big part of it, is the magic, you're French, so I'll say je ne sais quoi of why people are attracted to it, both the residents, the patients, and also the families, the volunteers, and people that want to work there. So thank you for being such a really big part of our community, and I thank you for that.
Well, I thank you for giving us the opportunity to thank others through this podcast, too.
Indeed, my pleasure. Any parting thoughts for our listeners out there?
Sometimes, and sometimes it's more frequent than not, we can get caught up in our own thoughts for the day and perhaps our own workload. Maybe came off a difficult situation. And I have to remind myself, as I try to remind others, walking down the hall, you never know who you're going to meet. You could have come just from a difficult situation or a good situation, but preoccupied, but not knowing that somebody may be coming down the hall who needs an extra smile, a hello, just a kind word. And I always like to think that the God within that person is meeting the God within me. And that's a perfect meeting. And so to be able to just pause for a moment, we never know who and why someone's being put in our path. So I strive to try to remember that every day so that I can maybe, show some kindness to someone else. And just be able to have a wonderful moment. Maybe just a little meeting, 2 seconds, 2 minutes, but just be able to, just pause for a minute because there's a reason the person is passing me.
Such a positive note. We always hear about, an act of kindness, but you're right. It's very, very easy to get preoccupied with your own troubles, or even if it's just, whatever, just to be in your own head. And if you're encountering somebody in passing, sometimes it's nice to just take the focus off of yourself just for 2 minutes or 2 seconds and just offer that smile or a kind word. So great note to live by. Well, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Mission Matters podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.